Good morning! I think I finally found the perfect lens to pair with my Sony ZV-E1 as an all-in-one traveling lens and for when I don't feel like carrying my prime lenses. The Sony 20-70mm f4. I've been using it for about a month now and overall I've been very happy with it. It's very compact, lightweight, has a wide focal range and superb image quality. Honestly, I don't have a lot of negative things to say about this lens. For what it is, it's pretty much perfect. But let me explain why I chose it over other mid-range zoom lenses because there's so many of them. The first reason is the form factor and weight. This lens is about the size of a compact G Master Prime, measuring only 10 centimeters long and 7.9 centimeters wide, and weighs only 485 grams, making it much easier for me to carry when hiking or traveling. Overall, it balances very well with my Sony ZV-E1, unlike other mid-range zoom lenses I've tried, like the Tamron 28-75. However, it does extend a little bit when zooming all the way into 70 millimeters, which slightly throws it off balance with my setup, but if you have a heavier camera, I don't think it's going to be a significant issue. The next reason is the focal range. For months, I debated between this lens and the Sony 24-50 f2.8, and I ended up choosing this one mainly because of its wide focal range. You get 20 millimeters on the wide end, which is more than enough for vlogging or wide-angle shots, and 70 millimeters on the long end, which is great for subject separation and close-ups. Now, I know this is an f4 lens, but honestly, I came to the conclusion that I'd rather have a very versatile f4 lens than a very limiting f2.8 lens. Yes, you'll get slightly better subject separation and low light performance with an f2.8 lens than with an f4 lens, but the difference is negligible. For these kinds of scenarios, prime lenses will always work better, which is exactly what I'm going to use if I need more bokeh or to shoot in low light. Also, because the ZV-E1 has dual base ISOs, ISO 640 and ISO 12800, I can easily use this lens even in low light conditions by just switching to the second base ISO of 12800. However, if you have an older camera with less impressive ISO performance, maybe f2.8 is going to be more valuable to you. But for me, the 20 millimeters on the wide end and the 70 millimeters on the long end are far more useful. Since I got this lens, I haven't once felt like I needed f2.8 instead of f4. Another reason I got this lens is because of its minimum focus distance. As you know, I do a lot of product reviews on this channel, and this feature is very important to me because it makes shooting product B-roll much easier. With this lens, I can easily get as close as 25 centimeters to my subject when shooting at 70 millimeters with no loss of sharpness, allowing me to be a bit more creative with my B-roll shots. Now, I know this is a very niche feature, and this lens doesn't perform as well as an actual macro lens, but it's much better than most mid-range zoom lenses, and it's more than enough for what I do. All right, next, let's talk about the image quality. I think the image quality of this lens is fantastic. It's not exceptional by any means, but for an f4 lens, it's very good. Starting from f4, it's very sharp in the center across the entire focal range, but slightly soft in the corners. At f5.6, the image becomes much sharper, even in the corners. And at f8, the image is tack sharp across the entire frame. Honestly, I don't really like doing these sharpness tests. I prefer to use the lens and see if I like it or not. And so far, after using this lens for about a month, I don't have much to complain about when it comes to image quality. It's very sharp across the entire focal range, very color neutral, has a good flare control, decent sun star performance, and shows no noticeable distortion or vignetting, at least when shooting video. I don't think it's going to be as good as something like the Sony 24-70 f2.8 GM2, but it's pretty close at half the price with a wider focal range and a more compact form factor. The final reason why I chose this lens, or why I prefer using native Sony lenses in general, is because they support all the new fancy Sony camera features like breathing compensation, high FPS photo bursts, and they perform much better when it comes to stabilization and autofocus. Honestly, I don't really care that much about breathing compensation or high FPS photos, but I do care about stabilization and autofocus performance because it makes my life much easier as a solo content creator. So before you go ahead and buy yourself a new lens for your Sony camera, think twice whether to get a native or third-party one. Regardless, to summarize, I think the Sony 20-70mm f4 is a perfect all-in-one lens for solo content creators like me. It's very compact, lightweight, has a wide focal range, a short minimum focus distance for semi-micro shots, superb autofocus performance, is very sharp, and supports all the new fancy Sony camera features. I think if you have a compact camera like the Sony ZV-E1 and you're looking for a minimalist all-in-one traveling lens, this one is a great choice. Thanks for watching.